kicking us off. Okay, this meeting is being recorded, so in case you guys want to put on your mask so that you're not recognized for posterity, here's your turn. Here's your chance. So this is one of several open houses that I'm sure some of you have had a chance to drop into. A great opportunity to get to know Fletcher, and Fletcher, as you all realize, covers an enormous amount of surface area. Both the planetary surface area and the thematic surface areas. And the Institute for Business in the Global Context, fondly known as IBGC or IGBC or ICBG, any combination of those letters work. We all know what it stands for. It stands for business and the global context. So we are preoccupied by all things at the intersection of the world of business and the world. And as I'm sure each one of you can appreciate, the world is a complicated space. There are many actors who are shaping the world as it is and where it is going. And one of the critical actors or group of actors at the table are those who operate in the business sector, whether they are big businesses or small businesses, the entrepreneurs, the kid with the gleam in her eye coming up with an app that might change the world tomorrow, the investors, both the fat cats on Wall Street to the impact investors who are trying to stand up some social enterprise that might be doing some good somewhere in the world, to businesses that were in the business of making cars and overnight have started making ventilators, or businesses that were in the business of making pharmaceutical products and pretty much having relegated this thing called a vaccine into the annex, a much forgotten part of the biopharma complex. Suddenly their vaccine projects have become the central elements of what they do, with everybody from the government to every person, conscious person on planet Earth, watching their every move. So long-winded way of saying that the intersection of the world of business and the world is an enormous intersection, much larger than anything that we could ever imagine, because the role of markets, the role of capital, the role of innovation, entrepreneurship, the role of technology is everywhere. And increasingly, as we start moving towards the light at the other end of this pandemic tunnel, we are going to see a much greater role for the private sector in the public good. And this is where there are a number of points of tension and a lot of really interesting questions to explore. And frankly, the future of what we try to understand about the world and the kind of interventions that all of you will be making in the world to come, will involve some knowledge of how business, innovation, technology, creativity, capital plays a role in shaping that world. So that is what the IBGC stands for, the Institute for Business in the Global Context. This may be one of the few places anywhere in the world where you can have this discussion of the intersection of business and global security, business and geopolitics, business and sustainable development, business and climate, business and gender, business and food security. And really, this intersection is rich with possibility and rich with a number of different sub-intersections, which really define what keeps us awake during the day and often awake during the night. The Institute for Business in the Global Context is a student-centered hub of all things business at Fletcher. And what we'd like to do is share with you a little bit about the different facets of the Institute. It's organized in roughly kind of four major areas. One is education, which involves some of the degree programs that several of you are part of, like the Master of International Business or the business concentration in the MALD or the other degrees. the GBA, which is the all digital business degree from Fletcher, and then policy and regulator education that is done through the program called FlipFee, which we'll have a chance to talk about as well. So education is one part of what we do. Another part of what we do is engage in research on issues that are very much at this intersection, and on issues that are meaningful to people who are making decisions on a day-to-day basis. So our research is meant to be evidence-driven, analytically rigorous, student-centric, but also decision-maker-centric. This is research that is meant to have an impact on the world outside. So we'll have a chance to talk about that. A third aspect of what we do is engage in dialogue. As we know that research and education, that's a process that takes time. It's a process that is quite often intervenes in systemic ways. However, we know that the issues that we worry about are happening on an hourly basis. So how do we stay in the flow, and how do we engage with the people who are involved in thinking about these issues and making decisions on these issues, and also our potential employers for our students. So they want to understand what kinds of cool things are our students working on, so that they can then connect with them as they go through their journey at Fletcher and beyond. So we have a third area of activity, which we call dialogue. And dialogue could involve speaker series and workshops and entrepreneurial competitions and conferences and so on. And finally, a fourth area, which for lack of better description, we call it the lab, which is to take all these different activities, which are generally developed in an academic context, and take it beyond the wrought iron gates, both the real wrought iron gates of the academy or the digital wrought iron gates, which is kind of, you know, what we have these days, to the real world, and have our work collide with the real world, and we learn from it. We often apply these in real world situations, and then we bring those questions back to you know, the academic pursuit, and that we do through a variety of activities, such as consulting, or doing research on specific issues that external partners have brought to us, or in entrepreneurial competitions. And all of this is done with each one of you, our students, at the heart of these activities. So in the coming few minutes, we'll have a chance to share with you just the tip of the iceberg of these different initiatives. We'll have some of your colleagues actually talk about the work that they're doing at IBGC, and then we'll leave some time open for questions. So by way of introduction, I'm Bhaskar Chakravorti. I'm the Dean of Global Business at Fletcher, and also direct the Institute for Business in the Global Context. I may be the only one who actually says IBGC in the right sequence, but the rest of you have perfect license to swap those that sequence around. So without sort of taking up any more time, let me turn this over. We're going to play, passing the parcel. So I have a parcel here, which I'm now going to hand over to Dorothy. And Dorothy, maybe you can grab that and then pass it, downstream, I'm assuming, to Kristen. But before each one of you sort of say something about the area that you oversee, perhaps you could just give a quick introduction to yourself, in case some of our newer students haven't had a chance to meet you.
Thank you, Bhaskar. So I'm Dorothy Orszulak. I am Director of Corporate Outreach for the IBGC, and I am delighted to be here today. My role is to connect what we do here at the IBGC, the incredible research, as well as the work that you're doing in your classrooms, in your personal lives, connect it to those jobs and internships and those opportunities in the real world. So I'll be talking to you a little bit about our speaker series, our consulting, and any other opportunities that allow you to bring what you have come to do at Fletcher and bring it out into the world. Shall I continue on, and then maybe we'll turn it over to other folks as we pass the parcel, as they say, Bhaskar?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So Joe, if you could move to the next slide. So what we want to do and what I want to do in my role is share with you how you can get involved with the IBGC. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit, very, very briefly, about our speaker series events, as well as the consulting program and entrepreneurship and student competitions. And then I'll turn it over to my colleagues to talk about business education, the leadership program, as well as opportunities for you to get funded. And then, of course, we're going to spend some time digging into the research and how you can get involved in that. So we're going to turn now to the next slide, and wanted to let you know that you have an opportunity here to get involved in a number of events that we've got going on. And specifically, I just want to highlight, we've been working on events all semester long, but this week you're going to hear from us in a couple of different capacities. We're working with our colleagues at the Center for International Resource Policy and Energy Policy and OCS to bring you opportunities to network with alumni and non-alumni in the energy space, and specifically looking at energy and climate. So that's going to be happening this week. We've got an event looking at careers in technology and business for the LGBT community with 3 generations of Fletcher alumni. So take a look. We're constantly putting out these types of events, and we're doing them in collaboration with many of our other centers, as well as student-led groups. In particular, we've done an entire series of consulting. If you're interested in careers in consulting, we've been working with the Fletcher Consulting Group to help create pathways. So how do you break into consulting, whether it's the Bain, McKinsey's, and the BCGs, to the social impact boutiques such as Dahlberg and FSG. So these are happening, and we're taking virtual career trips to New York with the Career Services Office. We'll be doing site visits with consulting firms, and then we'll be launching, research, which my colleagues will tell you about, as well as I'll tell you a little bit more about the Fletcher Reads the Newspaper, which are a series of events. So these are just some of the events that you're going to see us at. We hope you can join us. The next slide, please. So you've already seen, we really tend to focus on that intersection of business and the global context. And so we have a series of webinars that we've been bringing together Fletcher faculty and alumni from the MIB program to have these discussions on what's happening at this intersection. Maybe it might be policy, it might be the global economy, it might be security, law, digital innovations. These are all places where business intersects. And through these discussions, each of these webinars are looking at providing you with insights and predictions about what lies ahead for the world's most promising industries and markets. And so it's an opportunity to have a dialogue with a practitioner, an alum in the field, as well as a faculty member. And earlier this month, we brought together Claire Gooding, who works for Catholic Relief Services, and Professor Pramodru to talk about business and religion and how those intersect. Next slide. The other events where we bring together you, our students, faculty, and others is something we call Fletcher Reads the Newspaper. Every semester we kind of rip the headlines, we take what are some of the hot news items, and we gather a panel together, Fletcher experts, faculty members, and we examine the issues, and we invite you, our students, to approach the problems just as you would as a case study in a class setting, but to offer up solutions and strategies for dealing with these issues. All of these sessions are moderated by Dean Chakravorti, and we see this as an opportunity for you to do joint problem solving. It's like you're the consultant on this case. And the objective here is for you as the consultants to create a practical set of recommendations for the relevant decision makers. And in this particular case, we always frame the issues around, okay, the decision maker could be a CEO, it could be a political leader, it could be a, head of a multilateral organization, it could be an entrepreneur. So this past spring, as you can see here, we ripped from the headlines while we were in the midst of the launch of the pandemic, and we looked at how has this pandemic sparked different responses to major impacts of COVID, and how have these responses led to different forms of cooperation between countries around the globe. And stay tuned. On November 5th, we're going to be debriefing the election once again in a Fletcher Reads the Newspaper event. So stay tuned. Next, please. So now we're looking at another terrific series of conferences and events that we encourage you to participate in. As you know, we bring that multidisciplinary perspective together. And so every 2 years, we turn that multidisciplinary perspective and we put on a conference that looks at potential growth markets that are faced with a high degree of uncertainty. And it allows you, our students, to really take a look at ways of achieving sustainable growth with experts from across the globe. So these conferences bring together international business leaders, policymakers, investors, all so that we can take a look at a country or a region of the world that is going through a particular inflection point. So as you can see, we've looked at Africa, Turkey, and Greece. We've even looked at, the ocean, the state of the oceans. And right before the pandemic, we came together physically on campus to explore whether it was India's digital turn, looking at the country's strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities for their vast digital ecosystem. So that's another opportunity and way for you to get invested and to be part of what we do here. Next slide. So a terrific course that the IBGC supports every spring is the Global Consulting Program. It's called Field Studies in Global Consulting, and 25 students work on projects. These are real world projects for organizations such as Boeing, Deloitte, The Gap, PayPal, Hershey's. These were all the clients that these teams that you would be part of worked on. And this gives you the opportunity to take what you're learning in the classroom and do a consulting engagement for a client to help them make a strategic decision. In some cases, like in the Gap, you're looking at how can the Gap develop a circular economy? What part of that, recycling of clothing business, what part can they play in? How can they incorporate sustainable practices in their business? And so you get to play a very active role in that, and it is very direct resumeable experience. Stay tuned. On November 13th, we'll be doing a launch session to tell you more about who the clients will be for the spring and how you can get involved and how you can how you can be part of that class. Next slide. As Bhaskar mentioned, we work with entrepreneurs. Innovation plays a huge role, especially now. And so there are entrepreneurial competitions for you to get involved in. There is the D-Prize Poverty Solution Competition that you can submit to, and I'll be sending out more information about that. And then there's the Tufts Entrepreneurship Center, which is there to support. If you've got an itch in any way, shape, or form to scratch, your desire to develop a new product, a new service, the Tufts Entrepreneurship Center has an ideas competition that's coming up, as well as these one-on-one workshops and coaching that will take your idea from something that's just a little nugget to something more full-fledged. So those are opportunities for you also to get involved in. Next, the student competitions. So this, you're going to be hearing a little bit more from Professor Sheena about this in some future sessions, and we've talked about it in the private sector overview. But here are 3 specific competitions that you can get involved in, where you can take what you're learning in finance class, in marketing class, in the consulting classes, and bring them to bear in these competitions. The first one is the CFA Challenge, the CFA Institute. It's an annual global competition that basically gives you students the opportunities to have hands-on mentoring and intensive training in financial analysis and professional ethics. And so you will be part of a team, a Fletcher team, that you'll get tested on your analytical valuation, report writing, and presentation skills. And Fletcher teams have done extraordinarily well in this competition. And in the past, we've made it to the regional finals. We've won the regional finals, and we've gone on to the global competition. Another one is the MINT competition, which stands for the MBA Impact Investing Network and Training Program. And that's an experiential lab designed to give you, our students, and students at the MBA programs, a hands-on education in impact investing. And what's amazing about this competition is Fletcher alums are actually that they've gone on to impact investing are now mentors in this program. They are judges in this program. And so our teams routinely interact with that network as well as the Global Impact Investing Network. And the team has done remarkably well in that. And then lastly is the Kellogg Morgan Stanley competition, which takes graduate students from around the world to basically you develop and you pitch basically a creative financial approach to a tackling pressing social or environmental challenge. And out of all of the global challenges, Fletcher every single year makes it to the 12 finalist competition. So we do extremely well there. So these are opportunities, these are experiential opportunities for you to get involved, to meet alumni, to meet potential employers, to meet entrepreneurs, and to take everything that you're working on here at Fletcher and to put it to bear on real world problems at the intersection of business and all of the different disciplines. So I'm going to turn this over now, unless there are some questions, to my colleague, Agnes Hatley.
I'm sorry. I believe, Kristen, you're coming up next.
Oh, well, then we'll turn it over to Kristen.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much, Dorothy. That was very helpful. And I have just a few words to say. My name is Kristen Zecchi. I am the Director of Business Education here at Fletcher, which means that I have the pleasure of working with you all as MIBs, with those of you who might be in a different degree program, but pursuing a business concentration, whether it be formally IBR or something else, just to have an interest. And I also work with our GBA students, which, as Dean Chakravorti mentioned before, is our online digital version kind of the MIB. And I just want to take a moment. You all know what the MIB is. You all know what the MALD is. You're here on campus. You're pursuing this on your own. But I just wanted to take a minute to tell you a little bit about the GBA, because we think the GBA program, which launched about 2 years ago, represents a tremendous opportunity for you all to expand your professional network. GBA students, much like you all, come to their Fletcher education with an interest in expanding their international profile and their business savvy in their management skills. But what distinguishes them is it's a more mid-career program. The students are about 38 years old when they enter, and so they come with a good decade, if not more, of professional experience. We actually have students up until in their late 60s. So these are people that really bring very rich professional opportunities, and we would really love to connect you all, and we want to make sure that Fletcher Business Network is one network, and it's not just broken up between degree programs. And so we do have some programming coming up where we'll be able to connect you with them. But in the meantime, what I would recommend is that we have a LinkedIn group for all of our business alumni and current business students. I'll put the link to that in the chat shortly. And that's a great way to start to expand your network across years, across degree programs, and across professional profiles. So if you have any particular questions about that, or you'd like to connect with people across these degree programs or just our alums who have graduated, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Agnes. This is a big part about what we're here for, is expanding that Fletcher education network. So thank you so much, and I will turn it over to Emma to talk about a very different kind of educational offering.
Hi everyone, my name is Emma Galen Adelson, and I'm the Program Administrator with the Fletcher Leadership Program for Financial Inclusion, also known as FLIPFI. And we are an executive education program for mid-career professionals working in financial inclusion in developing countries. Our director is Professor Jenny Aker, and our goal is to support the design, implementation, and evaluation of innovative policies to promote financial inclusion. So we mostly work with leaders in public institutions, so regulators, policymakers, and other stakeholders working in financial inclusion from these developing and emerging markets. And there are two main parts of our program. There's the 9-month core fellowship, which blends online and in-person learning. Not so much in-person learning this year, but typically online and in-person. And then shorter, more concentrated, institution-specific in-country trainings. And in both of these, the core curriculum is the 8-question method for policy development, the 8QM. And what we do is we take a human-centered approach and to develop what we call people-centered policies. We've had 127 fellows graduate over the last 8 years from 47 different countries. And our policymakers come from central banks, the ministries of finance, telecommunication regulators, and other government entities. And at the end of the program, what they do is the fellows take back a real policy proposal memo, and they take those back to their institutions. And our alums have reported, that 81% of them have implemented their policies either in part or in full. So I will put our website and my email address into the chat. And if you go to our website, you'll see we have an overview video. You can see profiles of our alums, the policy memos that they created during the program. And we do work with a number of Fletcher students on specific projects. So if financial inclusion is an area that interests you, please feel free to get in touch with me, and we can see if we have a project that you enjoy working on. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. And before we turn to research and how you can get involved in IBGC research, I would like to highlight an experiential learning fund that is available to you all, which is a great resource when you're thinking about designing your own research project or organizing your own conference. Let me actually share this screen with you, but of course I will also put this link into the chat afterwards. But yes, so there are many opportunities to get involved in IBGC, and one of them is to take advantage of this resource for funding. We support a wide range of student activities, and one of them being the Student Research Fund, where students design their own original research. Ideally, this is something that links to your professional goals or capstone project. Usually these projects involve travel. Now, unfortunately, currently, Tufts policy does not allow travel, but we will get there. So keep an eye out for this, especially maybe for next summer or the next academic year. The idea is that you turn in a proposal together with a budget, describe your plan, your research objectives, and you turn it into our committee for review, and we fund projects up to $2,000 each. And you can find a lot of great examples for what students did in the past on this website. So I will share this with you in the chat. The other areas that I mentioned were student-run conferences. There are still some virtual conferences happening, so this is an ongoing effort. The student group support, Dorothy mentioned some of the competitions, for example, the MINT competition, the CFA competition that we support in terms of dues and fees. And finally, the Global Research Fellowship, which is a fully funded summer-long research project. In some cases, the topic is brought by the students. In some cases, it is provided to you. This summer, this project didn't happen, unfortunately, but we're definitely hoping to relaunch it in the future. And with that, just a few words about the SovereigNet research initiative. which is also under IBGC, and it's run by Professor Pat Shena. SovereigNet is not only a research initiative, it's also a network of academics and practitioners. And really, it's looking at the role of sovereign wealth funds and its impact on global capital markets. But it looks beyond that. It really is a very interdisciplinary multiple research project or research initiative that looks at issues of environment, social and governance issues, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, social impact, impact investing, infrastructure investment. So if any of you are interested in these topics, please feel free to reach out to Professor Pat Shena, and we will also have a separate info session for SovereigNet soon, so keep an eye out for that announcement. But I will put the website and Professor Shena's contact information in the chat as well. And without further ado, let me turn it back over to the research team to talk about the Digital Planet Initiative.
Great, thank you, Aggie. And what I thought I'd do is just sort of kick off a bit of an introduction to the Digital Planet Initiative, and then ask Ravi and the Digital Planet team to share some of the work that they've been engaging in. And this is an extremely active area of research, both at Fletcher, and we are doing this with a network of collaborators spread around the world. And so we are studying, currently we're studying 90 countries around the world and tracking the role of technology, particularly digital technology, and how that's shaping lives and livelihoods for people everywhere. And of course, 2020 has turned out to be the perfect science experiment for trying to understand how technology is shaping lives and livelihoods, because if you are not a meat packer or developing a vaccine or saving lives in a hospital, or checking people out at a grocery store and exposing yourself to potential the coronavirus, everybody else, if they can afford it, are flipping open a screen and they're trying to maintain some semblance of work and school and social interactions and entertainment using technology. So we are studying that global behavior this year in a very, very different way relative to what we've been doing over the past several years. The Digital Planet has been around for now almost 10 years. And specifically, we have been tracking countries around the world in terms of how they are making a transition from a physical past to a digital future, how they're making a transition in all walks of their lives, whether it is commerce or payments or just simply communicating with each other, or political interactions, how they relate to the media, what kind of trust they place in technologies. So many aspects of the connection between technology and the world is central to what the Digital Planet team studies. This year we launched a particularly a special initiative called IDEA 2030, and IDEA stands for Imagining a Digital Economy for All. And we were asking the question, is technology a force for multiplication or a force for division? Does it provide access to democratization and connection to a network, closing a communications gap that people ordinarily wouldn't have had? Or is it a divider where it is creating a force for polarizing people at different ends of a political spectrum or an ethnic spectrum or some other forms of social division? And of course, we know that the answer is yes to both. And we are trying to understand how that's manifesting and what can be done to move the needle in the direction of multiplication rather than division. So we are, of course, studying this phenomenon as it's playing out through the course of the pandemic. We are studying this phenomenon playing out in many different countries. We are trying to understand this issue from a bird's eye view, where we have over 300 different indicators that we are tracking with data across 90 countries, to bottom-up analyses where we are scraping social media posts on a variety of social media platforms, from Twitter and WeChat and WhatsApp and Facebook, to try and understand how are people surviving over the course of the pandemic, and what is the state of the social contract as is being revealed through these social media narratives. So we are doing this analysis from the top down, from the bottom up, and in many ways in a shoe leather form, where we are studying every district of India to try and understand how children across India are continuing to stay in school and get their lessons over a phone or over some kind of a screen, depending on their access to computing and communications devices. We're also working with organizations such as Dahlberg, who are studying the implementation of digital technology in various parts of Africa, and trying to figure out how we can accelerate the use of technology to advance the cause of economic development and policy progress. So you can imagine that there are many different facets of these issues that we're trying to cover. Let me turn this over to some of our own team members, your colleagues and classmates who've been working on some of these issues, and to perhaps give you a bit of a glimpse of the work that they are currently engaged with. So perhaps Ravi, if you can just pick this up and help us kind of navigate through the many different visuals we've got here, and some of our fantastic, fabulous digital planeteers will talk about their work.
Sure, absolutely, Bhaskar. Hi, everyone. My name is Ravi Chaturvedi. 10 years ago, I was sitting on the other side where you were all sitting. I run research. I'm the director of research at IBGC, and a member of the GBA faculty. Digital Planet, like Bhaskar said, I mean, he spoke about IDEA 2030. There's on the timeline that Dorothy showed a little while ago, she talked about the launch of the Digital Intelligence Index middle of November. We're just waiting for this really inconsequential election to get done so we can come out with this research looking at how 90 economies, as Bhaskar suggested, are moving from a physical past into an intelligent, inclusive digital future, and look at how trust is a bridge from our evolution into this digital economy, into making it inclusive, intelligent, and make it work for all. So this work that we have is obviously I have the pleasure of leading it with Bhaskar, but really the power, the horsepower, intellectual horsepower comes from all of you and is led by 3 others in the team: Christina Filipovich, Griffin Brewer, and Joy Zhang, who are all on the call, and about 30 of you drawn from across Fletcher, MIB, MALD, GBA, Tufts undergrad, Tufts Econ School, and I'm missing a couple of schools here. But suffice to say that these 30 odd digital planeteers that Bhaskar talked about are drawn from every corner of Tufts, and primarily from Fletcher, obviously. Now, what we did along with this is built a platform for of and by these digital planeteers. That is all of you, or whoever among you who's keen to be a part of this. Of the charts, it's basically a skills honing platform, and it is it's a platform for you to take what you learn in this fantastic interdisciplinary environment that we have at Fletcher, and bring it into the world of research and connect it to real action. So this platform allows you to hone your model building skills, your data analysis skills, turn them into interesting visuals. A snapshot of these are available here. And very soon, one of my colleagues will post the link of the charts, on the Digital Planet website. And those visuals, not just the visuals, but also writing a summary, of insights that effectively tell the reader what it means. Why does it, why is this important? What does it mean for you, the policymaker, or you, the business leader, or you, the technologist, and what you should do with it, and so on and so forth. So this is a skills honing platform that we've built for you. Rather than me droning on about it, why don't I actually turn the mic over to Malavika and Devyani, if they're here, and then and then Uzair, in no particular order. If you all can share with your fellow Fletcher classmates as to what your experiences are.
Yeah, I can go first. Thanks, Ravi. I'm Malavika. I'm a January enrolled, so this is my second semester at Fletcher, and I started working at Digital Planet earlier this summer, and then have continued throughout the school year. So I mainly focus our work in the Off the Charts initiative, which, as Ravi said, is sort of turning our data-driven research into visual storytelling. And then I also do some work on the digital trust aspect, which is coming out in November. So I think overall, it's been a really great experience so far. It's an excellent way to sort of build on your hard skills, learning how to manage large data sets, creating indices, turning those insights into visuals using Tableau. So really furthering your hard skills is super important, especially for any career. And I think any employer would look favorably on that. The Digital Planet team is also very great to work with. We have regular team meetings and fun. So we encourage you to reach out if you have any questions.
And I did not pay Malavika to say that. So is there anybody, is Devyani here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead, Devyani.
So I think Malavika covered a lot of this, but I also joined Digital Planet earlier this year in May, along with Malavika, and have also been working on Off the Charts a little bit with the trust stuff that Ravi mentioned, and just other projects and things that keep coming up. So there's always just a new thing that you're working on. What's been really interesting has also been that there's been, with the pandemic, there's been so much like new development every few weeks that you're always sort of tuned into the news and how that sort of affects looking at it from like a digital angle, which has become so much more prominent, at least like more evidently prominent in the last few weeks. So it's been really interesting trying to apply this digital angle to a lot of these issues on inequities and racial and gender issues that have just grown more and more grave over this year. So as Malavika mentioned, we work a lot with large data sets. It's also just a skill to like find the right data and find the right source of data. So it's definitely been a very useful skill that I've honed. And then we also work on a lot of like data visualization platforms like Tableau. So those are like some of these really hard skills that you develop on like different platforms and how you sort of represent data. So it's been really interesting. Actually, both Malavika and I have converted our Digital Planet work into what we'll be doing our capstones on, because it's so relevant to what we do. So it's definitely just has, I mean, all the stuff that we learn in classes, it's nice to be able to sort of use it in a practical way and then have outputs that sort of get published. And it's always nice to have like see your stuff get published. So it's been great, and highly recommend reaching out to us and working with us.
Perfect. And Malavika and Devyani just are in the process of taking some of their early work and turning that into into a capstone, which is terrific. And these are precisely the kind of bridges that we intend to, and we are here to build for you, where we run alongside your in-class immersions. Think of us as a finishing school at graduate school, where you're able to bring all your skills and then have a bit of a narrative of what you did at Fletcher and why you are better than your peer, your competitor from an HBS or an MIT or any other place, and why you are a better candidate for any firm that you want to go work with eventually. Now, do we have Uzair here as well?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, Uzair's been doing some terrific work over the last, how long have you been with us, Uzair? Nearly.
I joined on from 19th February 2019.
Wow. Okay, who's counting? Okay. Do you want to share with your classmates what your experiences have been?
Yeah, sure. So I joined as I mentioned on 19th February 2019, and to be honest, so far the experience has been really amazing. And as was shown in the previous slide, that you build the model, you do the data analysis, and then you summarize your insights, right? And I have been doing that precisely that, especially with the DEI index. So last year I was involved in developing a model to actually impute the missing values, because for most of the countries that are included in the DEI index are developing countries and emerging markets, which suffer from lack of data. So together with Caroline, who was before, who was part of IBGC as well, we developed this model and employed several econometric techniques to actually fill in those missing values, which proved to be very beneficial for some other work that we did this year. And then this year I was involved in actually experimenting with machine learning techniques to actually predict the DEI score for different countries and identify which variables are responsible for the highest variation, either in DEI score or in DEI momentum. So it was very a quant-based and data-based approach that we took over here. And one of the highlights that I would like to demonstrate over here is that IBGC actually gives you a lot of flexibility, and this is basically what Fletcher stands for, right? It gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of experimentation, in terms of developing new techniques, developing new models, whatever they feel that can be beneficial for the center as well as for yourself, right? And the second thing that I would like to say that it's a very supportive environment, and the amount of trust that the supervisors, the research analyst, and the team and everyone in the department that puts on you, it actually makes you feel way more comfortable, and they really want to have your creative side come out in a way. So that's what I really enjoy about IBGC. And if you have any questions, any just want to know that what exactly do we do and how do we develop these techniques, and what courses can you take to actually develop these quant skills, then I'm available. Then let me know. Thank you.
Thanks, Uzair. I'll add a couple of sentences to this before I pass it back on to Bhaskar. So why did we build Off the Charts? And this is a platform that we built after many years of conversations with people that you will eventually end up going and working with, be they leaders in IGOs, in governments, in technology businesses, in businesses, what have you. Now, they all want people who can, who are strong in analysis, who can help them make evidence and data informed decisions, and can tell a story and help them summarize these insights in a way that can further their own, business priorities and agendas. So in more ways than one, think of this as the training ground for whatever role that you are, aspiring to post-Fletcher. So that's point one. Point two, all of this is so practically, oriented that many of our our Digital Planet alumni, have work that they have done at Digital Planet has helped them land at, and I can rattle off a bunch of organizations here, from Dahlberg to MasterCard to Morgan Stanley to the New Zealand government and so on and so forth in the World Bank. So, hopefully, some or all of you will be interested in becoming a part of this happy team at Digital Planet. Bhaskar, what have I missed?
Yeah, so thank you, Ravi, Uzair, Malvika, Devyani, for sharing your stories. Let me just give you a 30-second on what we are working on right now, and then to give you a sense of the immediacy of the work that we do, and take a few questions in the remaining time. So what we are working on right now, or one thing that is immediately relevant, as in like right now relevant, another one that is relevant in the next few months. So the next few months part of it is we are developing a a blueprint for the new administration in the United States post January 2021. Now, the new administration could be the old administration, or it could be a new administration. Regardless of which administration comes into power, we have a whole bunch of suggestions to them across all 50 states of the country and the District of Columbia, as we have studied how this country has managed through the pandemic while looking at that experience through the digital lens. So there are going to be recommendations for each of the states and what to do about it that is going to be developed by this team. What we are doing right now is that we've developed something called the Misinformation Vulnerability Index. As we know, going into the last 2 weeks into elections, the level of disinformation and misinformation and just lies and rumors has never been at the kind of peak that it is right now. 2020 has combined a pandemic with an election, with everybody being online. So this is like a perfect storm. So we have noted that much of the intervention in terms of misinformation is being done on the supply side. You have Facebook and Twitter and Google trying to grab information and either throttle it or slow it down or put a label on it. And what is missing is an approach to the demand side, trying to understand where are people more vulnerable to getting fake news and where is it more crucial. In other words, if I'm Vladimir Putin, which parts of the United States do I want to geo-target with lies and rumors? So we have developed a way to narrow this down. We've also narrowed it down to some of the key states in the US that are likely to be targeted, and also what are some of the strategies that can emerge from it. For instance, Florida, a likely misinformation strategy is to target the Latinx community in Florida with very specific lies that are going to resonate with that community. So how do you go after that from a digital perspective? Similarly, in Ohio, the approach is to try and suppress the Black vote. That is the strategy. So now, how do you counter that? So these are the kinds of analyses and work that is coming out of this team right now, and more around the corner. And of course, the digital evolution, digital intelligence team is studying implications across 90 countries. So let me just kind of pause there, see if there are any questions that we can answer in the remaining minutes. Put up your blue hands if you have anything that you'd like to raise. Well, I think we may have saturated you with a ton of stuff that we've thrown at you. Of course, it takes a certain amount of time to absorb and process, and you know exactly where to find us. You have all our email and other contacts. There are also a ton of links to websites and pages that we have shared. Our primary purpose was not really to kind of give you the full-blown picture of what happens at the Institute for Business in the Global Context, but to communicate a few things. One is just the sheer amount of energy that sort of flows out of this part of Fletcher. Second is the sheer amount of energy that exists at the intersection of the world of business and the word. And the third is to reiterate a point that we made before, that energy is drawn not from some of us who've been talking on this call, but drawn from each one of you who we hope are going to be part of this journey. So thank you for joining us, and do reach out with your blue hand or other hands through email and other ways in which you can get in touch with us. And I appreciate the comments and observations from each one of my colleagues at IBGC and all our student research teams. And if anybody has anything more to add, this is your chance. We've got exactly 60 seconds to go before the shutter comes down. All right. Aggie, do you want to close us out?
Sure, happy to. It was just wonderful to see all of you, and so many familiar faces. And thank you for all of you for being here. The recording will be available. I'm happy to share with anyone who would like to have a copy of it. And I know that some of the students had class at 1:30, so just let me know. I'm happy to. We're happy to share the recording for this session. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.